So, this is going to be for the individuals that are into cool ideas, effectively. Intexa, driving for answers, plasma channel, potassium, and many, many others that have already kind of started making a large amount of the designs a thing to begin with. For the most part, here. Okay, so instead of hydrogen peroxide and methanol, we're going to be doing nitromethane. And I'm going to tell you how to make nitromethane without needing nitric acid, which is fine because that's going to be like explosions in fire and Nile red probably, or Nile blue or whatever. All right, kind of stuff like that. And so the basic premise here is an airship that uses vacuum bladders. So you're going to get carbon fiber and you're going to get a bladder, all right, kind of like a blimp, except when you spread out the rigid carbon fiber or 3D printed structure, it's a vacuum in between, and then you're going to be using a screw to do it with a solenoid or a basic electric motor. As you spread it out, you increase its given buoyancy because of the vacuum that it has gotten larger. And the surface area has also gotten larger, and the only way you can really get better type of performance from a helium or hydrogen style of gas is to literally have nothing there. So, this is what it was. It was like, well, getting to space cheap was about taking oxygen from the air with a nitrogen filter and then cooling it off and condensing it with a decent, multi-stage cooling setup, like Hyperspace Pirate was doing. All right. She already achieved liquid nitrogen, so it's just a variation on his process using laser and light to help with a pulse tube, Joule-Thomson, and acoustic pump reaction, Neri style cooler. Because if you don't know, to get the coldest temperatures, they use light to get near absolute zero, because they'll excite an electron orbit of an atom and then have it elicit more light, and so it gets colder. Well, if you do that in a pocket of gas, you can achieve. All right, Phaser. You can achieve even better results. Yeah. There you go. We're not playing. Nope. So that's effectively what it is for those given designs, because then IR emittance, which is kind of what it would sort of be, but then you can also get other light to be emitted, and it will cool itself off so long as you use the thermal siphon condensing process. So it's hot here, more buoyant, it condenses, it goes down lower, like a density change. And then when you properly vibrate that together with it in a resonance, you achieve an even greater amount of expansionary Joule-Thomson pulse tube cooling. Alright, so it's pretty simple, but that's in my other video earlier on. I already came up with the hydrogen peroxide and ethanol burn in that video. That Intexa basically was here's methanol and some hydrogen peroxide I can just buy. And I'm like, yeah, no, well, for what it's worth, 70% isn't that amazing for what it's worth, you know. And it's sort of pretty easy to take oxygen and water and put them together with a substrate material, which they readily sell, with a little bit of electricity. And you don't need a chemistry license or any license to buy it. So that means it's you can make pure hydrogen peroxide, as you can percolate it through water without needing to condense it in as concentrated form as you would probably have. Yes, I know, Phaser, I know. It's where would you buy this material? For what it's worth, Amazon sells it right now. I'm not sure how long, but Amazon does sell it. That's the whole point. It's you guys are kind of idiotic. Like, do you not know that that's a thing? Give me a second. Alright, the dog's chilling out. Play with him a little bit. Turn my back to him. So there's that. Anyways. So, I would rather that you looked this up before you decided to try and actually do it. Which is the whole reason why I'm not going to tell you what the fuck to look for, you damn idiots. This is explosive material. You know, a liquid. Literal explosive liquids I'm talking about. Like pure nitromethane that I'm going to tell you how to make is explosive. Same thing with hydrogen peroxide around. So, like, shut the fuck up, I'm not going to tell you. Maybe do some work. You know what I mean? Like, here's a way to make explosive stuff. Nah, I'm good, bro. I'm not that kind of guy. Maybe do some work and then you'll figure it out. That kind of shit. Because it's like, well, I can get nitric acid. It's honestly, I don't even need a chemistry license to buy nitric acid or even refine it to a much higher concentration. For all intents and purposes, it's really not that hard to do it. Which is another reason why I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you how to do that one, but you could look that up yourself. The basic is nitric acid is produced really ridiculously easily under certain conditions with electricity around. It's true. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, so, you know how like sulfuric acid batteries, you know, lead acid, right? Batteries produce their electricity because there's electrons that want to, you know, move, right? Well, it's kind of the same process with a little bit of forced electricity movement for, I'm not going to tell you the liquid, so shut the fuck up. Because you're a retard if you think I'm going to do that. You fucking absolute knob. Learn to do this work yourself. Stop trying to make it so it's real simple for yourself to get really quickly into trouble. But if you use a metal, like lithium of all things, turns out, and you run electricity through that liquid, you can get nitric acid. Now, if you ever look up what the chemical structure of nitric acid is, then you'll understand why you can do that. Because if there's nitrogen in our air, and if you place in the liquid around it and you percolate a little nitrogen, and you run electricity, it'll forcefully make nitric acid, which is effectively how the chemistry manufacturers do it. Big shocking secret. Fucking idiots. No, tell me how to make like a, you know, very dangerous substance. It's like I did, but maybe if you do a little bit of work, you'll understand why. I probably don't want to give you exacting details as to why that could be illegal. I mean, the FBI itself essentially was like, you know the Z Library, which effectively was like a collection of universities and corporations' information for the studies they performed, that you had to pay millions of dollars to get access to? It's all like, no! My money I'm not getting! And they shut it down. Just because money. Not like, oh, it's super dangerous. Money. It was money. That was this year, by the way. You forget that, but that was this year. They shut it down this year or late last year, whatever it was. But like that's what that is. It's like no, you need to pay us the millions of dollars to get access to fucking information. Fuck that, man. Fucking assholes. But I'm gonna move on because it's like that's basically what I get for challenge people. It's like you're a challenger. Shut up, do work. I need to know that you need to know how to do it. I don't know how to do this thing. Please explain it in graphic detail and exacting detail for how to do this dangerous thing. I'm a total idiot that doesn't know anything and will never do any work, but listen to this. Maybe I don't want you to do this. Maybe I'm just like not real big on the idea of a retard like your dumbass doing this. Maybe that's what this is. You fucking knob. Just say you don't know something. Why is that so hard for you to do? You're not challenging jack shit. Everybody knows what that move is. No, I totally know it, but please explain it to me. You know, please. Fucking retard. You're held back by your little belief system of I need to be better than everyone else and know everything. Your philosophy is garbage. You should change your whole idea system. You fucking retard. Held back, hindered ass motherfucker. Anyways, that's how to make the nitric acid in very large concentrations that is literally pure at that point. So, or at least so close to being perfectly pure that like you'd probably want to make sure you diluted it a little. Same thing with like hydrogen peroxide. It's like this is genuinely like pure hydrogen peroxide. You know what I mean? Like it's typically fairly unstable, and so you need to keep it cool and under pressure too. It's just another reason why I'm like, I don't know if I want to give you an oxidizing explosive agent in massive concentrations. It's literal explosive rocket fuel, so like, maybe I don't want to tell you exacting specifics there. Same thing with like, you could buy nitrogen filters. You don't even really need a license or anything. Here's how to concentrate it with a multi-stage condensing setup. And then, oh, is liquid oxygen an explosive reactant? Yes, it is. It's quite dangerous, actually. Why? Oh, yeah, no, maybe I don't want to have you do that. Exactly. Literally that. So maybe be quiet and stop fucking around. Because, for what it's worth, just go buy already fairly concentrated stuff for convenience. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to deal with nearly that much amount of safety issue when you're doing that. Because if you manufacture this and you fuck it up, you do have a chance of exploding or burning a hole through the ground or having a lot of other problems. So, don't do that. Anyways, safety first. What really kind of third, we're really kind of maybe like in between, and you know, results are really based upon you and your level of concern and talent and expertise and so on. So, you know, it's really up to that. Yeah. But the reason why I was talking about it is because it's like, well, you get the smarter everyday guy, you get the how, you know, stuff made here, you get Intexa, you get Driving for Answers, you get a bunch of shit together as a collaboratory project for people, and like, this is the airship thing, because it's like, you don't know about this maybe, or maybe you do, it depends, like a Scott Manley and then SciShow and more know all about rocket balloons. They do, right? But balloons can only get you so high up into the atmosphere, but a fucking vacuum will get you all the way out. Now, I'm going to move on because it's like that's basically what this is, but with a platform that happens to be effectively a big engine with fuel on board, along with solar panel wings. Now, like, why would you do wings? And it's like, the answer is really fucking simple. I need the electricity. I'm going to make a plasmification electrode railgun coil gun kind of thing. So it's like, as I burn the fuel for whatever you're going to use, ethanol, methanol, nitromethane, because truthfully, you can make pure nitromethane off of that if you know what you're doing. And then if you have hydrogen peroxide, that's now a fuel oxidizer propellant combo. And it's like, it's already quite hot, but it happens to produce an iron redox flow reaction that if you happen to have the right substrate, like a fuel cell, which is like copper and some iron, it's really not that hard to do. Like, Robert Murray Smith did a bunch of different versions of that. You can even get electricity from it, from heat production, if you do it right. So it's like, all told, right, you put a little bit of solar panel and then you have IR emittance on the back. Because these are not, instead of like, we're going to fold them out or we're going to slide them. This is the rollout. It's this just like, roll them out with some sticks. You know, it's like, I'm going to cool it because it gets quite hot up there, right? Even though you get improved efficiency from the solar panels when they're higher atmosphere, you also can IR emit with pretty simple little fluids that you run through in a nice aluminum sheet, effectively. It's literally all they are for all intents and purposes. But that's all you really need to do, but it's to cool not so much the tanks, it's to cool the solar panels, but also cool the bell end. So the bell end's basically a screw-in multiple graphite part. It's literally just graphite with some threading. And the reason why I'm doing it is because, like, as I react it with the nitromethane, so the hydrogen peroxide with the nitromethane, if I react the two, I get an excess that allows for me to burn and turn with the electricity that I'm going to make from the solar panels, but also that reaction, which is quite hot, into a much more easily turned into plasma. But then it's like, well, I have excess, so it's like I'm going to yank out a lot of the electrons from the orbit. But I'm going to put them through an electrode, and as I push through into a chamber for that plasma, then there's an electrode here, but it's like, wait, no, remember that overreactant, right? Like for certain gases that are there that will, technically speaking, have more electrons because I have to push them into there and I have to yank them out, which is a type of filter. So like that's the reason why it's like this is a reactant combustion, but then this is the flow filter, but then this filters out and makes it plasma, and then I get on the outside a higher amount of like alkalinity, sort of ionic style of a gas that's quite hot still. The other side is plasma. As I force it through into this chamber, as it'll bounce a little bit, like that's the resonance frequency sort of stuff, I then have it near the nozzle, and then the bell end itself is also going to have this gas go into it with little holes throughout it and a little teardrop in the center. And it's going to be hollow. So it's like it's going to have stators, but it's like this is why you just screw it together, because it's going to be hollow. I can push gas in. I have the teardrop shape. That's a hollow teardrop shape. That's an elongated, effectively toroidal, but then you have to have like the stators, which are just bell, not bell cutter, teardrop shape, little flat pieces of wing that are also graphite, so it's really not that big of a deal to make that. But what it means is like now the ionic part that I can shove more electricity because I can push electrodes in that becomes a way to force a faster speeding up of that given plasma gas. And it then comes out as regular gas. Instead of a plasma, it's now just gas. Really hot gas that's been sped up a lot using basic exothermic chemical reactive styles of knowledge techniques that we already have. I need less pumping around because, well, it will try and naturally do that anyways. Once I get a thermal siphon effect for this is higher pressure, this is lower pressure, I am plasma, I will go over to here. And also, I kind of want that ionic. And also, I'm definitely going to get accelerated and all the rest, and it starts doing it itself. And then I can add in, to accelerate even further, electromagnetics, because it's plasma, and static charge differences, because it's ionic gas. Which, I call it ionic because it's like, well, ions increase or decrease doesn't matter, they're still ionic. So, you know, like, that's kind of what that feels like to me. Because I could totally get electro boom in this, like, why not? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't he want to get involved? Why wouldn't all of them want to get involved? I mean, this is a nice collaboratory project where I suddenly have an orbital airship as a rocket concept, because it's like the cheapest way to get into orbit. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'll get as far out of our atmosphere, really realistically speaking, as I can, and then I just accelerate myself using a multi-stage rocket design, because it's nearly pure hydrogen peroxide, nearly pure whatever for nitromethane or methanol or ethanol, or even a blend for what it's worth, like whatever you really want to do on that side, and that can absolutely lift it up, depending on the size of the airship, to really, really high altitude. Which, with wings, I get lift the faster I go, but eventually I just sort of need to gimbal it the right way, which, shocker, you can do pretty easily. Because it's graphite, and it can slide on itself. With the fluid that is the gas, that pressurizes one side and seals it to another, which allows for you to then just use basic bitch solenoid extension and positioning to gimbal inside of the ball joint. Effectively, it means if you don't know how to do this, you probably shouldn't do this. But if you do understand what I'm saying, you're probably smart enough to probably do this yourself. And you should probably do it. If you think it can't work, it's probably you're too afraid of people doing it, or you're an idiot that should shut the fuck up and not do it. And that's all that would really be. You know what I mean? Because it's like graphite wouldn't burn, right? It's like, it takes a lot to burn graphite, especially when you're cooling it on the opposite end with the ionic gas. Well, because you're going to need to with the IR admittance. But you don't really need to cool it that much. It's really just to make sure it doesn't react. Because if you know about the chemical reactions here, like a Nile red or explosions in fire, then you know that that ionic gas could possibly try and react with the graphite and any steel that you might have in this, or other kinds of materials that you could try and use that are even lighter for you. Because you can technically get away with powder coating multiple layers of aluminum on both sides to be able to get away with making that. Now, powder coats will 100% still try and break down if they get too hot. But it's okay, you've got a ginormous wing structure anyways. that gives you more than enough electricity, and the substrate you're gonna use is totally able to handle the heats and pressures, because of course you're gonna have to cool it. Just a smidge. It's a transformer, rectifier, capacitor kind of current thing, like neon transformers. But when it's made in a radiator kind of fuel cell like separator fashion, it actually improves its performance, and you need a lot less electricity to do it, especially when you have a reactive battery that is just fine. It's chemical reactive batteries are what we use in our, let me see here, all internal combustion engines ever. So I'm like, what did the idiot say? Did they want to sound smart somehow? Like they can't possibly be an iron redox flow better? Did somebody say something that sounds totally fucking stupid? Like they know something that he doesn't, but then honestly, and others too, they just sounded like an idiot, a total shut the fuck up guy. I don't want people making airships that go into space and orbit things. That's probably what it is. That's probably what that is, you know what I mean? That's probably, for what it's worth, that's probably what that is. Laughing my ass off over here. Because it's really not that hard to do. I'm not kidding. It's really actually not. At all. Like, in any way. I'm just letting you know. You can absolutely get into space doing this. It doesn't actually take that much. And in fact, the materials that you can use around you right now is, honestly speaking, more than good enough. Especially when you can add in, this one's a big shocker, there's this stuff called borosilicate glass, quartz, any kind of glass really, that can handle pretty fucking high temperatures, okay? And if you don't know, it's decent at insulating things. With an aluminum shroud around it, which will fully be able to take the ionic heat. Especially when you cool it that way. Where the inside of the reactionary ionic to plasma gas flows. Which is effectively the same thing that... there's this guy, I don't know, you know him, he just put out a video, his name's Integza, that effectively did the same thing by forcing in more gas into a reaction chamber that was burning a little bit of gas already. That it made a jet engine, rocket engine kind of thing. So this is just souped up to plasma now. As the nozzle substrate sort of thing. So, idiots be idioting, because of course you still have to make the hourglass nozzle, but that just means boundary layer and a couple of stators in that area. Which, if you don't know, those are wings now that basically are hollow, that are going to be crisscrossing. And then you blow the ionic as the plasma travels over. So it's once the plasma gets moving, and then it goes and heads towards the ionic, kind of like a carburetor setup, inside of those wings, they'll be attracted to begin with. But then it's it's going to wick out. But then it's you can force it through with a little bit of extra pumping from the heat of the plasma. Thermal siphon shit. But it's no, you can still ultimately move it with the magnetics that can exist inside of the glass. In a vacuum area with a glass here and a glass there. Everybody's getting glass, baby. Tube within tubes, man, in a vacuum. Shocker of all things. What do you know? That actually makes it a lot easier for you with the stators because they have to be connected to the aluminum somehow to push electricity to that, and also acceleratively, because you can run current and other things for your rectifier circuits here, to accelerate the ionic gas. You fucking knob idiots. Like, so you don't know how to do this. Let me explain it to you like you're a fucking simpleton since you think it can't be done. Fucking weirdos, I swear. These guys think they're smart somehow. I'm a PhD, is what I imagined one of them. But it's like, no, I'm really smart. I'm a doctorate in this field that's very specific, and I've never, ever, ever known about any of these other things. I'm smart, I swear. Yeah, about that one specific topic. And I'm like, I'd rather that you, the idiot that thinks that they're smart, doesn't know how to do this properly. Because it's a little bit more complicated than you posit it to be. But it's not as complicated as others posit it to be. That's the problem I have. It's like, no, I'm really smart and intelligent. And I'm like, yes, you are, probably. About this one specific fucking area of expertise. And you don't go very far outside of that because you're not very curious and you don't want to learn about a lot of other things. Which effectively, for me, makes me always look at a lot of PhDs like, oh, no, you're probably more informed on one thing or another about a given subject, but I look at you like an idiot because, to me, you are. You're not curious, you're not a genius, you're not any kind of fucking intelligent person that's willing to get uncomfortable again and go after other things that you haven't learned and be a stupid dumbass like you were in the beginning before you got your PhD about other fucking shit. Learn to be stupid again. Dare to be stupid. Dare to be stupid. I'm laughing again. Because that's all it is. Just go be stupid again. You'll learn a lot more if you're willing to be uncomfortable and stupid again. But see, the problem is that society trains you to know all the things. Because you have a PhD or a doctorate or a master's or a bachelor's or whatever it is. But it's like now you have to be right about so many damn extra things. And they expect you to be like that. But you're not going to be able to be like that. Because you don't know everything. But people expect you to do that somehow. And there's no fucking way in hell that can work or ever happen. But that's the crowd. As like a politician or a famous person. That expects you to be perfect, moral, all the things. They put you up on a pedestal and you have to look down at them as you realize that none of them do what they're expecting of you to do. Same thing with anyone online. Same thing with any creator of any sort. So I just look at a lot of people like they're stupid. Because it's like, what is this hypocritical nature of them but not me? That kind of thing. But it's whatever, because it's like, here's an easy way to get to space. And I mean that. Here's an easy way for your own, like, project to be done. Get to space. Get to orbit. And even deorbit and get it back. Instead of the old science experiment of getting a weather balloon and having it go really high up and having a little, camera on it and you retrieve it and that's how you show everyone. Now you have the ability to do a flight plan. Now you have the ability to have programming that helps you effectively make sure you do the right burn to orbit, has you properly gimbal and have the right pressure, so like you have pressurized fluid, just as an FYI, as a result of this. So that means that you can turn it around and you can deorbit and then get back, and you have wings and you have a big old blimp, and so you can use the wings to kind of slowly come in and then, do the little corkscrewy barrel sort of style of slow down. Then you can reduce the wings and then reduce the size of your airship and slowly sink back down to the ground. And you can retrieve everything without having to waste helium, which is good because helium's expensive and it's really hard to fucking like get that back. So, I don't really like that stuff being used. And hydrogen, for what it's worth, is its own fucking like shit show. Because it's not so much that it's explosive, it's just that we were learning. I like Vertassium's video about that. It's like, if you think about it, we were learning, and there are always going to be, like, we think of car crashes and airplane issues, like with the smaller airplanes that are out there. Like, there's a lot of that, but it's like all of a sudden hydrogen is so terrible. But it's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be, at least in my mind. But it's like, why do any risk when you have a vacuum? You know what I mean? It's like, a vacuum's totally fine, right? So, anyways, just my 2 cents on that. But that's the reason why I get all animated, because it's like, you're a bunch of dummies. To me, like, you really are. Like, if you're going to challenge me, it's like, nah, I already do know this, but I don't really want to put this out in a public forum, such that it's like stupendously easy for someone that has way too much confidence and way too little knowledge to suddenly just go off and do it. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's fine, guys. I'll just go fucking, what did you just say? With explosive fucking reactant propellants? No! Like, literally that kind of terrifying to me. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I'd rather not with the, Americans that are overconfident, ignorant, unintelligent people more often than not. Like, they believe themselves better than they are, where they don't want to admit they don't know something, like what that is. And the culture pervades because they expect you to do that and be that way, instead of just being like, no, hold on, I gotta go check something. I have to know what that is. I have to know what this is. I have to, like, there's a way to, you're right, like, there is a way to do this. There are those materials. Like, you could do all of this. Instead of me needing you to explain everything to me, I should actually do that work, so that way it's not dangerous for this information to really kind of be out there. You know what I mean? Instead of expecting something to be explained to me, I should probably showcase I'm curious enough and willing to do that work in such a way that means they'll not be a massive risky person about it that can possibly hurt others as a result, or themselves. So that's what it turns into. And a lot of the rest of it's the same thing. I'll go after anyone like that. If you go further, like, you should really start my entire YouTube off from the beginning, the very first videos. Now, you can totally get away with skipping the journals from like 2018 and up into March. I still have all the rest of that for what it's worth, and I talked about needing to put all that up, but it's like, you can skip that. But like, it's not gonna, it's not gonna prevent you from understanding more. It's just not really in relation to when I started my channel anything other than me and my feelings back then, before I had a lot of knowledge and so on, and what I was going through. Like, I recorded a lot of when I was homeless the first time, living out of my car, and a lot of other things preceding up to that, a lot of things after that. Like, I recorded a lot, but like, I just don't feel like putting it out right now is really what that is. It's just not going to really change anything other than, like, you get to understand me a little better. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, that's the reason why it's like, here's a cheap airship rocket concept that you could probably do yourself and most likely not kill yourself or others, get to orbit, and even be able to design and make it within less than a year for sure. And realize, for me, the reason why I'm doing it, please, is it's definitely to showcase my issues with conventional rocket designs. I have huge issues with Elon Musk and NASA because the way they go about getting rocket ships into space is literally one of the most inefficient processes I've ever heard. It's a cube law fucking problem for surface area. Instead of like using surface area and cube law to your benefit, they're making it harder for themselves by simply not using the very atmosphere to their advantage. And space planes try to do that, but they're irrelevant in my mind because what are you doing again? You're doing the same problem. You're trying to use lift. Just fucking use a little lift, most buoyancy, and you need a lot less fuel now to get your ass to space. What are you doing? It makes no sense. Like, you knew about rocket balloons in the 1950s. Why didn't you ever use the idea? It got you way higher into space using rocket balloons. It's safer. It's cheaper. It's better all around. And these guys are like, we're really smart rocket scientists. We're really smart. And I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots. You've had this forever. Are you insane, you fucking retards? Why aren't you changing? So that's kind of where that comes from for me. All right. Have a good one. Bye.